Good morning, everybody. You are listening to K-Talk Radio 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and today our very special guest is the very famous Andy McFarland. Andy, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my goodness, you can't give an intro like that. Very famous. Everybody's sitting there in their cars where they're listening to this going like, I've never heard of this guy.
Everybody's heard of you.
No, nobody's heard of this guy.
Everybody's heard. Every time I talk about Andy McFarland, everybody knows who you are. Like, do you know Andy McFarland? Like, yeah, of course we know Andy McFarland.
Oh man,
Honored.
I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be here at the Yoshi Shiraki. This is the first for me, Yoshi. Live radio. This is awesome.
This is awesome.
Yeah, we can't edit anything else. Let's do it.
Yeah. Andy's normally got a potty mouth. Just kidding.
Oh man, if something slips out today, we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Oh man. So Andy McFarland, from what I know, is a flipper, a landlord, a wholesaler, educator, lender. Anything else, Andy?
I don't know. A dad.
A dad?
A husband.
Yes.
A neighbor.
Yes.
A friend, hopefully.
Yeah.
And everything else. But yes, I am some of those things professionally. Yes.
That's right. That's good.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. So Andy kind of made his appearances at the real estate investment clubs. Probably, I haven't been very active myself, so you may have been active and I didn't know it. But there was a time where you were pretty active. I was very active. I was on the board of Salt Lake Real Estate Investing Association, and that's when I really got to know you better, is during that period. But I had heard of you before that because Andy McFarland was the big wholesaler in town.
Oh boy. Wow. Here it goes. Okay.
Right? So as I got to know you, though, you were so much more than a wholesaler, but that was the kind of introduction through the friends that I knew that knew you, said, oh yeah, he's this big time wholesaler, I've gotten deals from him. And so what would you say your dominant activity in real estate is? Is it wholesaling, flipping, landlording, any one that's like the most that you would say takes up the most?
Yeah, and when you're saying that stuff, it was interesting because we did meet back then with Salt Lake Real Estate Investors Association and things, and it's been a number of years since I've been active locally. Yeah. But I've met a lot of, I mean, there's still a lot of the same people doing the stuff, so it's
that's
awesome.
Right.
But
that's right.
You have been around locally in a while, and maybe we can get into that, kind of where I've been and kind of how I've taken my path with that, with kind of some real estate education stuff too.
Yes.
But what I am right now, kind of the same as I was years ago. It's been 18 years now. In fact, recently I gave a talk we had an event called Flip Hacking Live we do every year.
Nice.
And this year, for the first year, we had to do it virtually. But as I was compiling my thoughts for that talk, what I wanted to talk about this year, and my mind went back to like 19 years ago, my job when I was a dock worker. I was here in Salt Lake City. I was a dock worker for a company called USF Redaway, and I was just having dreams of being a real estate investor, right? And what all that meant and everything. So I was thinking about that as I was preparing for this talk, and thinking about like what I wanted out of real estate. So maybe we can talk about that. But so what I am now is the same thing I was kind of, progressed into as when I started 18, 19 years ago. I'm a wholesaler, so I have a business that buys and sells a bunch of properties. Wholesale, we retail flip as well. We'll probably get into that. And since then, since I've been able to make a little bit of money from that, I've kept some rental properties as buy and holds. I do some lending in self-directed IRAs. I do some lending outside of self-directed IRAs. Syndications, so just bigger deals. I'm a part of bigger deals with other people just so I can get the advantages that are there, which again, maybe we can talk about some of that stuff and why I do those type of rentals as opposed to some that I just own 100% myself. But yeah, I do all that stuff. I still do all that stuff, right?
That's awesome.
But what I should say is, today, right now in 2020, I have less of an active role in any of those things than I ever had 18 years ago.
Got it.
Or coming up, 18 and 17 because I had a super huge active role in all that stuff. I've done everything in my business.
Yes.
But now I don't do all of those things actively anymore. From a standpoint of if we want to talk about the different positions in a wholesaling company or retail flipping company, transaction coordination, the marketing, or the web stuff, or answering the phone calls, or going to see the sellers, or all that stuff. I'm less active in those day-to-day things as I ever was. But I've been there before. I've done all those. So.
That's brilliant. As the English would say, that's brilliant.
That's brilliant.
I love that. Okay, perfect. So you were less active in all those stuff, but you were known, and probably still are. People don't. This is the first time I'm hearing you're less active. But you're known as a master Jedi in wholesaling. Right? Like the reputation that Andy McFarland has is...
I've never heard that, but I give you pile it on.
Yeah.
When I say I'm less active in that stuff, it's meaning the day-to-day activity of it.
Right.
So a lot of times real estate investors, and this was my paradigm 18 years ago, real estate investor did everything. There was no teams of real estate investors. It's like, you do everything. You put out the mailers, you talk to the sellers, you answer the phone calls, you do the transaction court, you do everything, right?
Right.
So And I did everything. So less active meaning personally now, but my company and my team is more active than they've ever been. We do hundreds of houses a year.
Yeah.
But I just am not personally touching those, and I don't see a lot of those houses, frankly.
Yeah.
I don't see the houses anymore.
That's awesome, and that's where I'm going with this. Is as a master Jedi who's less active, but in the states that I know, Indiana, right, New Mexico, Utah, any others?
No.
Okay.
Still states.
So can you explain a little bit about how that looks to be in multiple states as a master Jedi? You're the Yoda of wholesaling.
My goodness.
How that looks from a day-to-day business. So you've got teams, obviously, in 3 different locations throughout the country, doing hundreds of houses that throughout the year. What does that look like?
For me or for the team or how we've been doing this? So I should say, it's pretty tough to do things remotely. Well, let me back up and say how we got started in that. So I've been doing real estate for over 18 years now. I was a one-man band doing everything, wearing all of the hats. And as I started to take off some of those hats and give them to other people, I realized that other people could help me with this business. So as I've been able to do that, proximity didn't matter as much. So real estate investors, you ask any real estate investor around the country, why do they invest where they invest? Well, it's because that's where they live. That's the proximity, right? The idea that you can invest somewhere where you're not living is like kind of a new thing. In recent years, it's kind of not as much anymore because there's people that are doing that. But for me, it was like, as I gave off those different roles to other people and let them do them, frankly, better than me, and then the last role that I kept was that interaction with the one-on-one stuff with the sellers. When I didn't have to do that every time anymore, then it kind of opened up, I can do this anywhere. So my core team, there's a lot of them are still in Utah, many of them are remote, they work kind of from around the country, some of them have moved, but to be able to be in different markets was just this idea that if I don't have to be there anymore one-on-one, working specifically with that seller, we can go somewhere else.
Right.
And once that opened up, then it was like 6 years ago, went into New Mexico, actually went into California for a little bit too.
Oh, wow.
Did that for about a year. But Indiana, been in Indiana for about 5 years now, so I've been in Utah for ever.
Yes.
Right? Since I've been doing real estate, but New Mexico successfully now for 6 years, and Indiana for 5 years now, which is a bit of an anomaly for people. I don't know a lot of people. I know people that have expanded in other states and tried that, but I don't know people that have been able to do it profitably and sustain that in other states because it's extremely difficult.
Right.
But we've been able to do it, and that's a credit not so much to me. I'm not the Jedi, the Yoda. It's the team. Like it really is the team of people I have around me. Like if you could sit down here at this radio show with the people on my team, the Jasons, the Chads, the Rogers, they would be the real magic. That's where you get all of the magic information from, because they are amazing people. So if I've done anything, it's been able to get a team around me of people that are like 10 times better than I ever was in those positions.
Gotcha.
That is the truth.
Gotcha. So they're the Obi-Wans, they're the Lukes.
Oh man, they are. Yes.
Yeah.
They are it. They are seriously any position you talk about in a real estate company. Everyone on the team now is better than I ever was at that position.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I love that. One of the biggest things that I've found that's helped the growth of my business is delegation.
Yeah.
Man, because especially Utah, we're a do-it-yourself state, right? Like
totally are. Which is weird, but you know that because you've been around different places. It's totally true.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a do-it-yourself state.
Yeah. I think we're becoming less and less the younger generations, obviously not wanting to change their oil anymore. But we had auto mechanics in high school because we needed to learn to change our own oil. Like, I've never changed my own oil, but lots of us want to do our own oil because it saves us $30, and so.
Yeah.
Somebody was making a joke. I don't know if it was true, but they said like the Flowbee was the #1 state that it sold in was Utah, the vacuum haircut machine.
Which is a great thing, right? We're an entrepreneurial state. We all want to, if somebody else can do it, we're like, we can do it too.
Yeah.
It's hard work. It's this thing built in us, which is awesome.
Yes. Hard work. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're built with like, let's go do it. We're hard workers. Okay, very cool. So, what would you say then is your #1 way of finding leads? Obviously virtual, unless you have door knockers in those states. I mean, I'm going to guess it's probably not door knocking, but what would you say is the #1 way that you're coming across your leads?
Yeah, so the #1 thing, this is a question I get all the time, because everybody's looking for that magic bullet. Like, what is the thing that's getting you these deals consistently month in and month out? And I would say the answer to that is, and I'll dive into some of the details because I know you want some details of it, but the answer is that word I just said, consistency.
Oh, perfect.
It's consistency. That really is it. Not just trying one thing and that doesn't work, and then try this and that doesn't work. Like trying something consistently for a period of months, maybe 6 months at a time, and then testing and tracking to see if it works. So what we do right now, We do a lot of mailers still.
Got it.
Do a lot of mailers. It's super competitive out there. And the different states, Utah is more competitive than the other two states we're working, but the other states are extremely competitive too.
Yeah.
We do mailers month in, month out. And we tweak the lists a little bit here and there, but we do mailers, and they still work for us.
They still
right?
perform,
Still
yeah.
We do a lot of online efforts, SEO, PPC stuff, Facebook stuff. We still do that. We do it consistently. Now, if I just looked 1 month and pulled it out and said, like, is this a good channel? Like, some months it's not great, but then some months it's like phenomenal, right? So you just kind of have to see over the time what's working, and all of them kind of work in a synergy with each other too. You send a mailer to somebody.
Yeah.
They see you online, they see you a Facebook ad from you, whether they're looking at you organically with SEO or maybe if they're Googling something, they get PPC. Like they see you across all these boards, and that just adds to the legitimacy of everything. So consistently being across all of those channels has helped us stay there.
I love it.
But month in, month out, it's like if you look at 1 month, you could say like these were dismal results, and then other months you could say this is the greatest thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
Averaging it out. That's it. So consistency with all those things. We do some of those other things too. Recently, a lot of people are doing, cold calling, text messaging, things like that. We've experimented with a lot of things like that. So we still are working with things like that in our lab. But our core bread and butter is the online and offline print stuff that we continue to do every month.
I love it. I love it. Trevor Thompson was in here, and I asked him the same question because they do a lot of business as well.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much a very similar answer, but he's also saying, I'm everywhere. Right, like you said, the mailers, the cold calls, the SEO. He goes, you've got to be everywhere all of the time. Consistency, right?
Yeah.
And same thing. Yeah, he says, we don't just depend on our mailers alone. Sometimes there's a good month, and sometimes there's not a great month.
Yep.
But I also love what you just said too about the consistency. I think this is so important because we're an instant gratification. The generation, the younger generation right now is an instant gratification generation, right? I mean, literally, like, think about it. When you and I had to do an essay, we had to go to Whitmore Library to gather the information. Yeah. Now you're like, hey, Google, hey, Siri, and then boom, you're writing your essay, right? It's all instant.
Dude, that's so true. And when I think of the mailers, because mailers are tough now, they're expensive, and like it's super crowded out there, but people are like, they're like, oh, mailers didn't work for me. I'm like, well, tell me about what happened. Like, let's break down what happened. Like, well, I sent out, and they'll say something like, sometimes it's a really small number. Like, I sent out 500 mailers, and I had like 2 phone calls, and people were yelling at me, and they, it doesn't work, right? Yeah. And I'm like, look, that's one, it's a small sample size, but 2, like consistently over time. We bought a house this year. One of my acquisitions guys came back to me and said, hey, we bought a house from a guy. The only reason he sold us as a house is he had postcards from me for like the last 2 or 3 years. And he said, if this guy, and he kept them all, said, if this guy can afford to mail me every single month for 3 or 4 years, he can afford to buy my house. Right. And like, so the new guys coming up there, like they can't do that. People haven't seen that company out there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. They don't have that credibility, that track record. Right. But like, we've been doing it consistently for so long, and that in and of itself builds this like credibility and reputation, right? Yeah. We're here month in, month out. Even when the COVID hit, and we're still in the middle of it right now, but like March, April, you had a lot of people that, some of these people listening, if you're real estate investors, you probably shut off your marketing. Right. People are like, I'm not going to do this anymore. The world's going to come to an end, so they turned everything off, right? Right. We didn't. Right. We kept going through the whole thing. Why? Because I've been doing this for so long, like consistently doing it, right? Right. So we got good deals out of that too. So. Yeah, excellent. And Gary Vaynerchuk talks about consistency is very similar. He says, he'll get these people that come and says, Gary, you said I should be posting daily on Instagram, and it's not working. He's like, okay, tell me about it. Just like you said, tell me about it. He's like, well, I opened up my Instagram account 3 months ago. I've literally posted every day. He's like, 3 months ago. 3 months. Yeah, exactly. And he's like, it's all about the instant gratification. They're getting no likes, and now they're getting turned off by it. He's like, do you know how long I consistently... So I think, if I remember correctly, the story is he became known through Twitter because that was the platform back then. Instagram didn't exist yet. And so he said, I was constantly tweeting on a daily basis, getting involved in discussions before I became who I was, right? And it was years and years. And I think he said that he filmed on YouTube, and then he went to another platform. He says, but I had consistently filmed for a year and had no views for that whole year. But he goes, I just believed that eventually I would, and then of course he did. Yeah. Right? Now 10 years to an overnight success. Right?
Yeah.
10,000 hours. Thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Okay, so do you also fix and flip houses outside of Utah? You obviously wholesale.
Yeah.
Do you flip too?
Fix and flip. We flip, and yes, we flip in all 3 states that we work in. Got a project manager who manages kind of the general contractors that we hire to do all of our flips out there. I was counting because you sent me some of these notes beforehand and said, here's some of the things we might talk about here.
Yeah.
So I counted. So right now, I've got over 25 active flips across 3 states.
Wow.
Yeah. So people just think, oh, Andy's a wholesaler. And I am a wholesaler. I do
Yeah.
a lot of wholesale. About 80% of my business is I'll sell stuff before I'll fix it up.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff we close on and we'll buy that stuff. We're not just assigning everything.
Right.
But yeah, 25 right now, properties that I own that I'm actively
Fixing it up.
Yep.
That's great. Are the majority here, just out of curiosity?
That's kind of split evenly.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. It's totally even. It's probably a little heavier on Utah, but that's pretty even.
Gotcha. Just because you live here, I was curious to see if the bigger weight was here.
No, not really. I mean,
Okay.
we do a lot of business in Indiana and New Mexico too. So.
Gotcha. Great. Wow. Excellent. Okay. So Andy, you have a nightmare story for us. I don't know anything about it.
Oh boy. Well, you know what? You talked about that. I said, hey, what's your nightmare story? And I've thought of there's lots of different. Yeah, I've got some different stuff in mind. But,
Okay.
But as I've thought through that, I don't know if do you want to talk about that right now. You want to get us?
Well, we're going to go into commercial
Okay.
break, and then you can
All right,
share with
well, I'll
me.
tell you all my thoughts.
Okay.
I'm sure
Okay.
everyone's
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to hear about Andy's nightmare story, and so I'm very curious. You know, I was talking with Jordan Atkin, you know Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, hey Jordan, can you prepare a nightmare story? He's like, today's nightmare story, or like which one? He's like, because
Yeah.
you get one like daily.
Yeah.
So, but we joked around that if you've been in real estate for a significant amount of time, you've definitely had a nightmare at some point just in this industry, you know, because there's growth and especially I think, you know, when you're, I don't want to say young because you could be old, but when you're newer to investing, you're hungry, and so you'll tackle more risk sometimes. As I've gotten a little bit wiser, I'm less likely to tackle risk, but I had my fair share of nightmares in my early stages. You still have them, right? But I
Yeah.
had a lot more in my early stages. So curious to hear what your nightmare story is, but when we come back, we will dive into that. You're not going to want to go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Sweet.
Did you know the Snap Lease is the most
Yes.
convenient lease in the world? That's
Snap
right,
Lease commercial?
The most convenient lease in the world.
That's me.
His
Snap
voice.
Lease
That's
is
so
designed
cool,
to make
man.
life a little
Insane.
easier for you.
Yeah, I was tripping out the first time I was here. I was like, wow, this is how this is totally seems so much more than it is, right?
This is so cool. They made me watch the inside workings of Yoshi Shiraka. So cool.
And conveniently converted to 7 types of leases, making the
So yeah,
Snap Lease
any
the most
particular
convenient
nightmare
lease
story you want to
in
talk
the
about?
Yeah, maybe I'll share
You know that is
because
7
there are
leases in
lots.
one.
But maybe I'll share about that because I've been thinking about like, oh, this was kind of a nightmare. That was kind of a nightmare. This was.
Oh, yeah.
I looked through all the properties in the last few years. I looked through 3 years, like how many properties we lost money on. So maybe it would be interesting to get some perspective. We can dive into any one of these individual things that I can talk about as kind of nightmares.
Yeah.
Make life a little more
but
convenient for you.
I think
and
the
your
overall
folks.
perspective
And
is
visit
Let's do that. Perfect.
Whatever ones you want to dive into.
Okay.
I'll give little details or a lot of details on whichever ones you want.
Okay,
So
perfect.
one of them just ended actually. That's the one I was thinking about, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Okay. All right, guys, we are back. You are listening to K-Talk Radio 1640 AM. This is the show Utah Home Sweet Home. Our special guest is Andy McFarland, and we are at the Nightmare Story segment. You know, Andy, we do this segment every week because I feel that, so Trevor Thompson and I used to sit side by side for a period of time over our career. I officed with those guys. I wasn't part of their team, but I officed with them in their office, and Trevor and I would share nightmare stories with one another because if we could learn from that person's nightmare, then we didn't have to go through it ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And so then I thought, yeah, I want to share my nightmares and all my investor friends' nightmares with everybody so that a lot of people out there don't have to go through it. And so I love what you just shared with me while we were on commercial break, that perspective of some of the nightmare stories versus diving into one, because I think they'll get a lot of value in that. So yeah, do you want to tell me a
let's
little
do
bit
it.
about that?
So here, just to set this for the listeners right now. So Yoshi talked to me. In fact, a couple months ago, we were talking. He said, "Hey, you want to do this radio show?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Hey, one of the key segments is the nightmare stories." I thought, "Okay, cool. I've got a ton of those." Right? So I'll put things. But as I was thinking through those, and especially the last couple of days, I thought, like, what is my nightmare story? What is my one nightmare story? And I wrote down a list. I've got like a list of 5 ones that I was like, "Oh, this was horrible, and that was horrible, and this was horrible." And maybe I'll go into a couple of those.
Yeah.
But overall, I was starting thinking about, okay, let me look at all the properties I've lost money on, and I got good spreadsheets and tracking stuff. So I went back the last 3 years and I said, how many properties have I lost money on? Because surely that's where the nightmare stories are coming out of, right?
Yeah,
Most of the
yeah.
Nightmare stories end with a loss, right? Or
Right.
like the ones that we make a lot of money on, like it's like yay, or you celebrate
Yeah.
for it, and it's like forget about it. The nightmare ones, it's like you remember the addresses of those properties.
Yeah.
So this might be interesting for some of the people listening to this. The last 3 years, probably done 500 or 600 properties in the last 3 years.
Awesome.
In my company. I lost how much? How many? I'm going to ask you. How many do you think I lost money on these properties?
Probably.
550 houses in the last 3 years. Let's call it some number like that.
Okay.
How many did I lose money on over 550 properties?
I mean, I think it's going to be less than one. I think it's going to be less than 1%, less than 5.
It was like 2.5%. It's 14 properties.
Okay, 14.
14 properties, and lost. And those 14 properties, a total of about $250,000 total across all those properties and that stuff.
Gotcha.
I thought to myself, like, were those nightmare stories? And in the time and the like, there's ones you're dealing with right now, right? That you just know what it is. It's like permitting issues. It's taking forever. Illogical. Like we had one in Indiana that was like with this COVID stuff. It was like all set, ready to go, ready to roll. Go get the permits, and it was like it was laughable. Every week when we talk about our dispositions meeting, it was like you could not even walk in and talk to anybody. It was just like the government bureaucracy slowed to like it was like for months. It was
Right.
like 3 months. It was like we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to go through the right process, and it was like 3 months before we could even talk to anybody. It was absolutely insane, right? So
Yeah.
that was like the nightmare of the moment. But I look at all these and think like, are any of those really like a lasting nightmare for me? And I'm like, no, they're not. Like
Yeah.
there's lessons with each one of those, but most of them are it's like all those would I knowing that I would have lost $250,000 plus on those 14 deals in the last 3 years, would I have slowed or changed my process? No.
Right.
I wouldn't have, because for me it's like overall you're gonna have losses. If you're not having a loss, if you don't have any nightmares or losses on certain properties,
Yeah.
you're not trying hard enough, you're not being aggressive enough, right?
Right,
But
right.
certainly there's things like, and those losses came from like properties that were pretty hairy. Like aggressive flips that were like, foundation issues or kind of like
Yeah.
busy streets, just kind of like bad neighbors, like neighborhoods that might have been a little questionable, that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the people involved with all that, but like, yeah, but were they a lasting nightmare for me? And maybe this is just the perspective of a guy that's like, I'm not going to talk to people at the permitting office. I'm hearing from my guy who's talking to the person that's going to talk to those people, right?
Right,
So I'm like, is it a
right.
nightmare for me?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
For me, it's not really a nightmare. But the ones that, maybe we'll get into one of them. One of them that was a nightmare for me at the time, I participated in a loan. It was almost 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
12 years ago, I participated in this loan. Now, I participated with some people that I thought they were pretty heavy, like experienced hard money lenders, and I'm like, I borrowed money from them once prior to that 12 years
Yes.
ago, so they were like extremely experienced guys, and at that time I thought to myself, I want to be on the other side of this table, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one borrowing this money, I want to be the one lending the money, and who better to be with than these people who are like the experienced hard money lenders.
Right.
So I put some money, I participated in this loan, and the loan didn't go good. It went bad, right?
Oh, yeah.
And at that, so I was not partnering with them. I wasn't intending on partnering with them. I was intending on just participating in this loan. Well, what it
Sure.
turned into, we owned this property as tenants in common. As our percentage ownership in that loan became our percentage ownership in the property. So if any of you guys have done this before, so this was not me intending to do a partnership. But the moral of this story is going to be about be careful who you go into partnership with, or who could potentially go into partnership. with.
Yeah.
So I went into that, did that, and we had a difference of opinion of how to get rid of that property.
Okay.
So suffice it to say, when you go into a situation like that, when you're tenants in common with somebody, you're
Yeah.
kind of, unless you want to sue them for petitionship, unless you want to get out of it that way, which is going to be a horrible legal mess and it's going to cost you a bunch of money.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck with who you're stuck with for a
Yeah.
number of years. Well, the reason this was a nightmare is because I was continually having to deal with this for the last 12 years.
Yes.
And I say it's the nightmare. I told you in the break, the nightmare is over because we recently sold our last lot from that. Like last week, I got
Oh,
all
wow.
of it done up. But 12 years, Yoshi.
Wow.
12 years.
It's bad marriage.
Oh man, 12 years they had money in there, and and 12 years ago, like that money meant so much more to me. I mean,
Yeah.
money, it's a large amount of money, right? Hundreds
Yeah.
of thousands of dollars, but it meant a lot to me 12 years ago.
Yes.
A little less recently.
Right.
But man, it was like it seemed like every couple of months, I was just like getting kicked again, being reminded by this
Yes.
this bad partnership that I never even wanted to go into. So, moral of the story there is, be careful who you go into partnerships with,
Yeah.
or who you could potentially be going into partnerships with. Because if you don't share the same ideals and thoughts on stuff,
Yes.
you could have a 12-year nightmare on your hands.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. So would you say some of the, let's go back to those 14 properties.
Yeah.
Any lessons that you learned from those 14 that taught you not to do that again? The busy street, the
Yep.
foundation house. Or is there anything you're like, yep, we learned our lesson on that one, never doing that one again?
Yeah, as we look through those, in different states have different issues too. So if you're going to go flip in another state, there's particular things like in New Mexico, they've got like poly piping in the walls. Like you need to know about that stuff, and different like foundation stuff and water issues in different states, and septic issues, which you don't have a lot of that in Utah.
Right.
So I would say a lot of those ones that went bad were flips that were like, they were little gotchas like that. It was stuff that
Got
like,
it.
oh, bad septic system, or didn't know there's poly pipe and we didn't have to tear all this stuff out, or bad neighbors, which you can't. I mean, guys, you can't change the neighbor. You can dress up your house as much as you want, but if you've got a bad neighbor there, you can't change that. Or busy streets.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that type of stuff, and also I would say the permitting issues, government bureaucry. Having to cut through a lot of that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and each one of those 14's got their own story, and some of those names are more prevalent in my mind. But even one of them, the city that we're sitting in right now, I mean, there was one of those properties that came. We were doing it in this city, and it was a nightmare permitting process. It was an absolute nightmare, and like we pull permits, not on everything, but we try to pull permits on most of the stuff that's going to be the heavy stuff that we do.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, as real estate investors, a lot of you guys listening might be nodding right now, like there's a reason why they don't just go out and pull permits on everything. It's like, because it's a nightmare to deal with it. We do everything we do right, the same way, permit or not, but it's just a nightmare when you have to get involved in that bureaucracy. It takes a bunch of time.
Yes.
Man, I don't know if you've had anybody here talking about that, but so many of these nightmare stories probably begin with like the city and the permits. And like, look, come on, you can't. It's going to take you 2 weeks to come out here and just see this thing. You're stalling everything for 2 weeks.
Right. So what will have you decide to keep something versus wholesaling it?
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking.
So most of the stuff that comes through my company, we'll just sell it. It's a widget.
Okay.
Whether I'm wholesaling it or retail flipping it, that's just part of the process and the way I run. The compensation structures and everything.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense just to sell it all. If I do want to keep it, then I have to go through the process and just bid like everyone else would.
Okay.
And pay for the property, whatever the value would be that somebody else would pay for it. I have a first right of refusal to do that. But oftentimes recently, especially the last couple of years, I kind of just haven't kept as much stuff just because it's been really super high pricing.
Yeah.
The exception has been over the years, stuff that we get that's seller finance and things that I negotiated years ago that were seller finance, good seller finance with no underlying mortgage, stuff like that. It's just like true owner finance stuff. I've kept a lot of those things as rental properties.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but most of the stuff I've been doing recently, purchasing rental properties, has been parts of a bigger apartment complexes.
Okay.
I was in Florida recently checking out some storage units that we did.
Oh, nice.
Which was awesome. It was super cool seeing that.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years now, and it's been way cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Here's a question that just popped into my head that's not on here. So catch it by surprise, but I'm sure you probably have an idea of the number. If you don't mind sharing, what would you say your average wholesale transaction of the ARV you're selling at is?
Ooh, of the
Because
ARV.
that's gone up. Like, people didn't want to buy anything over 70%. Now you're seeing people 80, 85. You know what I mean? Like, because it's getting so competitive, people are paying more.
It's crazy. I don't, as a percentage of ARV, I thought you were talking about average wholesale profit. As a percentage of ARV, though, I don't know that number. But yeah, it's not the 70% anymore.
Yeah.
No way. It's not that anymore. I mean, I'd say it's 80 something, right? I mean, a lot of times and this is all investors that are kind of scratching their heads saying, they paid what for that?
Right.
How are they making that work, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that has changed over the years. But that said, people that have paid those prices over the last couple of years, they've been bailed out, right? Like this market has gone crazy. Like we thought, like 3 years ago, people were talking about, be careful, this thing's peaking.
Yeah.
Well, if you just stayed out of the market 3 years ago and see where we're at today, like it's insane. It's absolutely insane. It seems like it's just, especially in the last few months, it's been on fire. So it doesn't matter if they paid 80% or 85% of it. It's like they got bailed out. It went up.
Exactly.
Which is a dangerous place to be. I don't think you want to bank on that all the time, but for the last 5 years, I mean, they've been right. So, So who are we to say that they paid too much for it at the time?
Exactly.
The joke's on us.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. All right, so if you guys been listening to the show, you got here late, you can definitely continue to hear the recording. Well, you can not continue, but you can go to UtahHomeSweetHome.com. That is our website where you'll be able to scroll down to the bottom and you'll see our social media links. We've got YouTube on there where we record and film all of these shows. So you can go there, check it out. Andy, do people have a place that they can follow you on social media? Do you like to be followed? Maybe you don't like to be followed. If you don't like to be followed, don't share where to follow you, but
follow Yoshi on social media. Don't follow me on social media. If you're looking to follow me on social media, you're gonna be looking for a long time. I don't really do the social media stuff.
Okay.
I do have a Facebook account. I post on there like twice a year. I'm horrible with that. No, I'd love to sit down and have lunch with you. Let's hang out. But I don't really do a lot of social media stuff anymore.
Okay.
I don't. I did years ago with that when I had the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Real Estate Stories. That's been about 4 years now since I've done something there. But I don't.
Okay.
I don't really anymore. Like
Okay.
I'm not social with thousands of people at a time. I'm social like one-on-one. I'm social with my family and neighbors and friends
Yes.
and stuff. So I'm sorry if you're looking to reach out to me. I don't know how you get me, but I'm not really social on social media.
Yes. He's personally social.
Oh man, how horrible is that? I'm sorry. I apologize. I apologize.
No need to apologize. Not everyone does social.
Yeah.
Not everyone does social. Does your company have social media?
What do we do on social media? We've got, I think so. I don't deal with the Facebook stuff and all that stuff anymore.
Okay.
I mean, inlighthomebuyers.com, but that's for sellers that are looking to, to get an offer on their property.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
That's how they could reach out if they want to have us come look at their house.
Yeah.
Reflect it, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. Well, we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to dive into Andy McFarland's goal setting, his passions. I'm fascinated. I remember having a conversation with you a long time ago in my house when we did that little episode where we were discussing how I'm passionate about greatness. Like I love the Olympics for every 2 years, right? Winter and then summer. Because I'm passionate and I'm fascinated by greatness. The people that go out and put themselves in these elite opportunity levels by just dedication, goal setting, hard work. And I would say that you're there. Like a lot of the guests that come into my show, we invite, are there, and you're definitely there. And so I'm fascinated and excited to hear about how you set your goals and all that stuff. So, guys, you're not going to want to go anywhere. We're going to dive into this with Andy's goal settings, and I'm actually curious to see what your 2021 goals are. So stay tuned, everybody.
Might be surprised.
You might be surprised. We'll be right back.
All right.
What's that?
Right over your shoulder.
Hi,
right
I'm
when you're
Yogi
saying
Shirafi,
complimenting
the
him.
author of
Oh,
the book,
nice.
My
I hope you don't mind
Body's
your
Just
ears
for
a
Me.
minute.
To educate children
But-
on the prevention of
No, this is
childhood.
good.
Am I the first guy with no social media account?
Best-selling author.
I think so, since I've been here.
I mean, let me think, yeah.
I respect it. I respect it.
I'm bad at social
People that
media.
don't do it, I'm like,
and learn
Oh,
how to speak up and communicate.
But I'm not trying to
I have
build
been
an audience
invited
and do anything
numerous
like that.
times
Yeah.
by Utah to
Even
discuss
the,
the importance of good
The
communication
education
with
company
your
I'm still
child
a
in
part of, I'm
regards
still
to abuse,
participating in that and
and
everything. I'm like,
also to
I
discuss
don't
how the
even
book
go on
My
there and post
Body's
any stuff
Just for
anymore.
Me
It's
is
like
a
I
great
show up to
tool for
events,
every parent
speak there
and
four
having that
times a year,
tricky
but
conversation
Hey, it
with
works.
your children.
It works
For more
for you.
information on the book My Body's
Yeah.
Just for Me, please visit
Yeah. Okay, yeah, absolutely.
protectourangels.com today.
All right.
And remember,
Is this for your book?
the more we focus on
This is another commercial, yeah, my book.
rehabilitation.
I'm like, I could sell these commercial spots, but I'm like, oh, let's use them.
Yeah, might as well use it.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
All right, guys, we are back. You are listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. Our special guest today in studios is Andy McFarland, super successful real estate investor, entrepreneur. Thank you again for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, because everybody, you guys don't get to see this behind the scenes, but I've known Yoshi for a number of years, but it's been fascinating. Never been on live radio before. It's been fascinating to see how this actually operates. He is a wizard. He is the Jedi of radio. Guys, he's got like a switchboard and all stuff. He's sitting all these things. Like, he's a ninja, which
Well, thank you.
I hope you all can come see this behind the scenes someday. Come peek in the window, because it's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe like one day, like on the Today Show, there'll be an audience behind the windows.
Yeah, they would be, it would be awesome to see this.
Oh,
My first
man.
time. Honored.
So, Andy, if you don't mind me asking, and I set this question up, I've asked a lot of people this. For me, let me set this up really quickly. I freaking love real estate, but if I had to pick, if it was my ultimate dream job, if it's truly my passion, as you know, we've been friends for a while, my passion is entertainment. I was an actor for years and years in New York City, and there's nothing more that I love than pursuing the entertainment world. And real estate was the vehicle that allowed me to pursue my passion because of the flexibility of, I'm not as quite hands-off as you are, but I'm pretty hands-off, and I don't do any of the renovations at my property, right? You have a contracting crew that does that. And so during the day, I can dedicate a lot of time to pursuing a passion by doing something that I really, really love for a living, which is real estate. And with you being so hands-off, I'm going to guess maybe families maybe up in that passion, but is real estate a love or a passion for you?
It was a means, and I'm still involved in it, right? So I say
Yeah.
means to an end, you think, well, it's over for him. No, it's not over.
Yeah.
When I started this 17 or 18, 19 years ago, I wanted freedom.
Yes.
That's all I wanted, freedom. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad like a lot of people, and
Yeah.
he talks about real estate as a path to that, right? To get your
Mhm.
time back. And that's all I wanted. I just wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted,
Yes.
with who I wanted, when I wanted to do it. That's all it was for me. It wasn't
Right.
about being billionaire, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was all about that freedom for me. So all I wanted to do was get that freedom. So and the way I got that, here's a 3-step wealth process that let's say,
Yeah.
make as much money as you possibly can, whether it be in radio, whether it be in production, whether it be actor, whatever you're doing, you're a
Yeah.
police officer, whatever. Make as much money as you can, add as much value to the marketplace as you possibly can, so you make as much money as possible. Live on less than you make. That's step 2. You have to live on less than you
Yes.
make. Always live on less than you make, and invest that difference in something. And that difference I invest in rent and interest. Those 2 things.
Gotcha.
If you'll make as much as you can, live on less than that, drive that gap into rent and interest, or
Yeah.
something that's going to appreciate over time, you will get that freedom. And that's what my process. Real estate for me, though, to come back
Yeah.
to your question, was it a passion for me? I was probably more passionate at different times in my life about it, but
Yeah.
really it was a means to an end. I was passionate about my freedom, and I could see that clearly that was a path where I could get my freedom back, my time freedom back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And correct me if I'm wrong. If I had to guess, your passion's probably I'm not going to say your family. Your kid. I see a lot of. When we talk, you
Yeah.
seem to be on the road a lot with your family. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
I was going to say I see a lot of your pictures on Facebook, but you just got done saying you
Yeah,
don't do
I-
Facebook.
My wife does. If you follow her, you'll get more of that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
No, family, yeah, and people. My passion, I'd say, is people. Like my family, my immediate family, like my kids. Like spend time with them and be
Yes.
impacted by them is awesome. But travel and traveling with my family has been great. We just recently got back from a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spend the people and being able to spend the time with those. Like one of the greatest things, the most fun things I've done this year happened a couple of weeks ago because of some of the time freedom I've got.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of time freedom. I was able to go. My family, my uncle still lives on the family farm in Georgia, so I was able to go out there and help him. He's kind of deteriorating
That's
his health
awesome.
a little bit.
Oh, that's
And
not awesome. But
yeah.
Yeah.
They had this hurricane that came through, and the outskirts of that went through, Georgia and hit this property. And tons of huge trees down on the property.
Oh,
on this
wow.
pasture, like huge trees. Like I'm talking, we had dealt with a lot of that in Utah, but it was big out there. These big trees that went down. So
Yeah.
I was able to go out there a week early before my family came out there, and I worked. Basically, I went out there and worked on the farm for a week straight, like 10-hour days or more.
Amazing.
And it was the most fun I've had in like months.
Yes.
Like it was so fun, right? Just
Yes.
clearing trees and chainsaws and skid loaders. And
Yeah.
It was amazing, right?
Yeah.
So that, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah, that
What
for me
you
was
want
like-
when you want.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I wanted to do at that time, and it was super cool to do that. I made no money. In fact, I paid money to do that, to go be there.
Right.
But it was so cool for me, right?
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I talked to, in our circle of friends, we know a lot of real estate professionals.
Yeah.
And I can think of a couple right now that real estate, again, is a love, right? But if you were to ask them, what was your passion? They thought they were going to be a professional Major League Baseball player. One of them thought he was going to be in the NBA. That their passion, their dream was those sports. And what was great about real estate for some of them is that it led them to have flexibility and freedom to continue to play those sports, even though they never made it to the big leagues.
Yeah.
They got to keep trying for a period of time after college ended, right? Because a lot of people, college ends, you get a 9 to 5, now your dream's completely over.
Yeah.
And I just found real estate to be such an amazing vehicle to be able to go out and kind of be able to sustain a comfortable living and then have still quite a bit of freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's what it is. Like month in, month out. I mean, the first of the month just happened, and tenants paid rent, and it's great.
Yeah.
Being on that side of the equation, and if you're not on that side, if you're listening and saying, "I want to be on that side of the equation," you can be there. You can be there too. It's just changing your mindset and doing things differently, making money, living on less than you make, and invest that difference somewhere it's going to grow, and you can be on that too. And it's not an overnight success. You don't say 18 years, 19 years, right?
Right.
It took me 18 years to be an overnight success.
Right.
So.
Right. Great point. Again, it's the consistency.
Yep.
And staying resilient. All right. So Andy, 2021.
Yes.
Goals.
Yeah.
Man, what kind of goals does Andy McFarland have for 2021?
So over the years, goals have been a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
Brian Tracy wrote a book called Goals, which is awesome. I'll review that at different times, right?
Yeah.
So I've had like more or less, like sometimes I'll go and just go tons of crazy goals, like 5 in every category and stuff. And one year, actually, I wrote my goals every day, like every single goal I wrote every single day on a yellow pad, and that was cool for that year. I don't do that anymore, but my relationship with goals is I kind of like ponder about them for the last few months of the year.
Yeah.
Different categories in my life, because I'm not just a business goal guy, right? I'm
Right.
about like different stuff and family and spiritual and growth
Yeah.
and stuff. But some of the things that I'm thinking about for next year might surprise you, right?
Yeah.
I bought this land in my backyard. I bought 3 acres in my backyard a couple of years ago. So I want to go out there and just like build a barn and a garden and some fence in some areas and just like
Nice.
and grade it out. And also because it's stuff that people might be like, well, that's weird. Like for me, it's going to be growth and learning. Like I don't know how to do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to go and do that stuff so I can learn how to do it. Like there's something about being out there and like getting your hands dirty and like doing something and producing something and building something.
Right.
So I want to be a part of that. So for me, that's probably going to be part of my next year's goals. So just like a lifestyle and growth perspective.
Yeah.
Business-wise, people are like, what is the business goals? We're probably going to do a lot of what we've done before.
Okay.
I'm not going to put a number. We're going to do 200 houses at such and such a profit.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going to do that. But we're going to keep rolling forward and doing the best we can. From the business perspective and all the different businesses I'm a part of, but that's not as much my focus anymore.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm not focused on it. We're still moving forward and doing that. But
Yeah.
I'm more focused on like who am I becoming as a person?
Yeah.
Like what am I doing every day to try to be a better person, to try to be more loving to those around me, to try to be kind to those around me, right? Who am I
Yes.
becoming? Because at the end of the day, the money comes and goes, and but the impact that people have on you and the impact you have on people, the love and the kindness you share, that matters. And it seems like the world today is a lot more like maybe it's just been 2020 and like the election years, and there's all that stuff that's going on. It's like been really divisive, right? It seems like everybody's like, I don't know, like there's just a lot of like contention in the world.
Yeah.
Like how am I participating in de-escalating that contention?
Right.
So I want to look at that and say, I hope that I can be a better person every day.
Yeah.
And look at other people as, the same or better than me, so that I can share that love, right? So.
Right.
So a lot of my personal goals will revolve around that. What am I reading? What am I
Yeah.
doing? What am I processing in the morning to set my mind right, so that
Yeah.
I can increase that love and kindness and charity to those around me, right?
Right.
That might seem hokey, but that produces peace and enjoyment in my life. Beyond anything else that I could get if somebody says, well, I want to go make another $10 million next year. Like, why?
Why?
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
Why? What's that going to do to you, right? It's
Exactly.
not going to give you any contentment. So,
Right.
So I try to focus on some of those things. So I'll have goals surrounding that.
Got
how
it.
How can I quantify that, right? How can
Right.
I be more of that? So.
Very cool. Very cool. So, you're always in great shape. Do you have any health goals?
So I used to have some. So what I do health wise is I'll do like 50 push-ups a day.
Oh, nice.
Or I'll do like pull-ups.
Okay.
That's it. Like I used to do more of a regimen than that, right? And I've run marathons and half marathons and done stuff like that. But
Yeah.
really, what it is now, I try not to like eat crazy stuff. Right?
Yeah.
But I'll have a donut. Right?
Yeah.
But I just don't overeat stuff. But really, that's what it is. Like I've realized that if it's too complicated, I'm not going to do it. So if you're not doing anything right now and you're listening to this, I challenge you to do 50 push-ups. And if you can't do 50 push-ups,
Yeah.
just do 5 push-ups or 10 push-ups, and then rest, and then do 5 or 10 more. Right? Just do 50 push-ups a day.
Yeah.
50 push-ups a day. That'll keep you in decent shape.
I-
And pull-ups. That's a tough one too. I mean, man,
Yes.
get somewhere and do some pull-ups.
Yes. This was quite some time ago. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago, but and I'm not as physically fit anymore, but 4 or 5 years ago, I would do twice a week 300 push-ups, but I got to the point where I was doing 3 sets of 100.
Wow.
So I'd do 100 and then rest 100 and then rest 100. And it was great because
That's
my
legit.
workout was done in 10 minutes.
That's legit.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's fast because a lot of times people say, I'm going to go to the gym and do this stuff, and January's coming, so everybody's going to go to the gym and do
Yeah.
this thing. But it doesn't last past like 30 days or 60 days because you just can't sustain that. But if it's something where like it takes 5 minutes to
Yes.
do 50 push-ups or
Yes.
10 minutes, it depends on how long you're resting for, right?
Yep.
But it takes 5 minutes. You can do that, right?
Yeah.
So somebody
Yeah.
listening right now, do that.
Yes.
Just say, I'm going to do 50 push-ups a day.
Yep.
You can do
and
that.
it's fast.
It's fast. And you
Yeah,
can do
and
it.
if you did 5 sets of 10, it's still like 8 minutes.
Don't need a gym membership.
Yeah,
You don't need anything. No special equipment. Just do 50
so
push-ups.
true. And it's actually the most, I don't know what you'd say, the biggest my chest has ever been. Is that how you'd say it? Is that how you'd explain your chest being big? The biggest my chest has ever been?
I guess so.
Okay, swole. I've heard the term
Swole.
swole. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say here.
That's weightlifting terminology.
Yeah.
Sure, you're swole.
Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah, exactly. Oh, awesome. Okay, so what does the average day of Andy McFarland look like?
Yeah. Average day. So I wake up about 7.5 or 8 hours after I go to sleep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's your descriptive. I typically go to sleep at like 10, 11, sometimes 12. Like I don't go to sleep past 12 like I'm a zombie. I don't go to sleep past 12. But I'll wake up like 8 hours, 7.5, 8 hours after that.
Okay.
Sleep's important. So
Yeah.
I try to be gluttonous with it, but like I get my sleep in, right?
Right.
There's that. And when I wake up, first thing in the morning, I'll read,
Okay.
and I read scriptures first thing in the morning. That's what I do. Like other type
Yep.
of reading and podcasts and stuff, I do at night or in the afternoon.
Okay.
But I'll wake up and read scriptures, and I have like prayer and meditation time in the morning.
Okay.
It's not like super long. I'm not sitting there for 30 minutes, but
Yeah.
praying or anything. But I'll do that, and then I'll go have breakfast with my family.
Nice.
Get the kids off to school. And then I start tackling this to do, the stuff from the day. So the night before, I always just make a list of things that I need to do, ABC lists. Some of you guys that are productivity people, you've done that before. So whatever things I need to do on that list.
And I learned that from you, by the way.
Oh, did you?
I do that.
I still do that.
The night before,
Yeah.
I put together my to-do list for tomorrow.
I still do that. Like the night before, I'll write the A, B, C list, and I physically write them down. I have stuff on my phone, but I physically write the stuff down. And then I'll start tackling that. I'll start looking at it and see what those are. And a lot of times, stuff that's on my A list is like lunch with a friend.
Nice.
Like that can make an A list for me, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
I block the time to do something like that.
Yeah.
So I'll do whatever I need to do that day as it pertains to my goals at that week and month, you know.
Right.
So I'll deal with it that way, right? So
Yes.
I do stuff, but it's not like the stuff people might be thinking I'm doing all the time.
Right.
But yeah, so I'll try to tackle on that list, right? That's what I do every day. And then typically around 5 o'clock, like I'll, it's dinner with the family, and the kids are coming home from school at like 3:30, so I'm around for that. Work from home like everyone else in the world, right?
Yeah,
I used to be unique last year. This year it's like, you work from home. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's it, Hang out, do the bedtime routine,
Yeah.
I'm doing dishes, I'm putting tubbing kids and reading stories and
Right.
reading,
Yeah.
prayers and going to bed. Yeah, so.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah. What? Actually, I was going to ask you this too. Sorry. Going back to goals.
Yeah.
You're a big family guy, and I think it's because every time I talk, you're on the road or coming from or going to with your family.
Yeah.
What kind of do you set those types of goals? Family goals, like, honey, we're going to take the kids 5 times this year to.
I mean,
Or does
we're
it just
going all
happen?
the time. Like we're already talking about, like this year we went Bear Lake, Lake Powell a couple of different times. We've traveled like Florida, like Georgia. We've gone all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're talking spring break trips. We go a lot.
Got it.
A lot. We take weeks with our family. We're talking about our September trip this year. So yeah, that's a huge part of our planning sessions for the year. It's like, what vacations are we taking with the kids? We've already got 3 of them booked for next year. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a big thing.
Do you mind sharing where you're
Yeah,
going?
so one of them, I really wanted to go to the Michigan, Upper Peninsula.
Okay.
So like from Traverse City, you go to Mackinac Island, and then there's like Pictured Rocks National Park, or Pictured Rocks National Shoreline up there,
Yeah.
Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Yeah.
I want to go there in September with like all the leaves and stuff. So I want to go do that for like 10 days.
Oh, nice.
We're going on we want to do this for years with my kids, like a church history tour, LDS church history tour. So
Sure.
we're going to do that. I've gone to all those places, but my kids haven't, so I want to go there with them.
Fun.
Included in that, we're going to go to like Niagara Falls and all that too.
Oh, nice.
So that's going to be super cool. We're not sure what we're going to do for our spring trip yet, but we've got some time booked out for that. But those are 3 of the things, or 2 of the things. Now, and we've already got a Bear Lake in next week, or next year, a week in Bear Lake, and then a week on Lake Powell with a houseboat. So we've already got those ones booked in too. We're pretty well. We're getting booked stuff. But I love to do that stuff. Like that's for me, like the
that's your
time
passion.
freedom. That's it. Time freedom. Go hang out with the family and go spend, a week here, a week there.
Yes.
It's awesome.
And do you have? Was it you that I was chatting with that has like a vehicle? I don't even know what they're called. RVs. Do you have an RV? Is that how you get around?
So I did an RV trip. We went for a month this year.
Okay.
When COVID hit, I was supposed to go to Israel this year. It was like I turned 40 this year, so it was my big 40th thing. I'm
Congratulations.
like, honey, I want to go to do this. I've wanted to do this for years, but international travel got axed this year. I said, oh no.
Right.
So rented an RV and went for a month across multiple different states, Black Hills of South Dakota. Went to Montana, did a dude ranch out there. Did helicopters over Mount Rushmore. Just super cool stuff. But a month, and I want to do more. Like I'm trying to find time this next year, 2021, to go spend 2 or 3 weeks on the road with an RV too, because it's phenomenal.
Yes.
It's so fun.
So we almost pulled the trigger on a Sprinter van this month for Christmas as a family.
Oh man.
That we're gonna deck out with a little shower, a bunk bed.
Do it.
Oh, dude, I gotta send you this video.
Do it.
A buddy of mine, he lives up in Fruit Heights. He's an attorney, and he's the one who got me hooked into this. He got a Sprinter van and is decking it out, and I'm like,
Do it, man. Nothing like I'm teaching this last year, teaching my kids to build a fire. Something we take for granted because I was a Boy Scout and everything.
Yeah.
I've never built a fire with my kids, but it's awesome. By a river, building a fire, teaching how to do that, just enjoying that time. Like some of the best times came from this year doing that stuff. So highly recommend that type of stuff.
Gotcha. Yes, definitely. Andy, how do you stay motivated, if you don't mind me asking? You've got these goals. How do you stay on target?
I don't know, maybe I'm just naturally motivated.
Yeah, I think
I'm always just like, it's like you got to do something. I'm like,
right.
I don't know. There's not like any magic pill for me. I just kind of like, what am I interested in at that time? Just go for it. Go do it, right? Like, I don't know.
So I'm going to come up with the next question right now. Because I feel I'm naturally motivated too. I have a couple friends that have zero motivation. like they just struggle with the idea of becoming larger, bigger, growing. They don't know if they're capable of it. Their 9 to 5 is just probably the best thing they're ever going to have. And we'll sit down and I'm like, why can't you believe in yourself to be able to take a little risk? And I'm not saying quit your job, but start a side hustle and see where it goes or whatever. And they can't understand how I think, and I can't understand how they think, because I think I was born, I don't know if I was born, maybe my parents were an example of self-driven. They were immigrants to this country and worked really, really hard, and I learned probably from them. Do you have any advice for people that just can't believe in themselves, how to get out of that rut?
Yeah, no, believing in yourself, like, there's something that you're passionate about, and whatever that is that you're passionate about, like, follow that, do something with that, learn that, like, it doesn't have to be Yoshi's right or Andy's right, like, whatever do you feel like for you that you're passionate about, like, start learning about that and doing that stuff. Like, for me, it's like the backyard stuff that I'm going to be doing next year, right? Like, I don't know anything about those things, but I'm going to dive in and learn that stuff, like, I don't know, because I just want to, like, it's growth for me, right? So, just do something like that, get outside of yourself, and get outside of there's a lot of things that are just mind-numbing these days, right? Listen to something good, get around good people, and get off of I hate to say it, but like the mind-numbing stuff that's just no progress, like video game stuff. Like there's no progress there. Like your false sense of progress. You think you're progressing because you're getting some badge award in the game. Like, go do something. Go progress somewhere. Do something. I just alienated whatever percent of the audience because they're like, he doesn't like video games. I'm just saying, man, it's just hollow, right? Go out and like experience. Go help somebody else. Go build something. Go do something. You know?
Right. I feel like sometimes people, they come out of high school, some of them go to college, some of them don't, and, making money becomes a necessity, they dive right into it, and they never got to taste the other flavors of opportunities of income, right? And they're stuck in that one, and I'm just like some of them don't even know what their passion are because they haven't figured out what they're passionate about because they haven't even tasted it.
They don't have time to be passionate too. They're like, I'm working a 9 to 5. I'm just tired.
Right.
Beat down. Yeah, that's tough.
It's tough. Yeah, and so some of the things that we'll sit down and talk about is you've got to go just try other stuff that you think you're gonna like. I say it's a lot like when you see an attractive individual. And you're like, oh my gosh, that, in our case, that girl's very attractive. And then you start to date her and she's a complete jerk, and then you're like, okay, I'm done, right? that's going out and finding careers sometimes. A lot of people are like, I want to be a doctor because it looks attractive because they make a lot of money, and then they start medical school. Jeff Braley was in medical school. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then they, and now he's a successful attorney, but there are things that you'll pursue that you'll end up changing your mind on. I think you just got to go taste them all.
Yeah, you got to go do something. That's true. That's good advice.
Okay. All right. Any last tips that you can share with the listeners as far as pursuing your dream?
You know what? I would say this. Like, you might be thinking, we started the show with Yoshi calling me the Jedi, Yoda, and all that stuff. Like, if you knew me, if you knew who I was and where I came from, like, I'm just normal. I was a dock worker. I was a college dropout dock worker, but what I had was some passion. I read some stuff, I was getting around better people, and I had some ideas. I was like, I want to get this freedom. So I wanted that freedom. I was willing to sacrifice for that over anything else. My first deal, I was super blessed to make $40,000. What I did with that $40,000, I did not upgrade my car, I did not move out, I took that money, I invested it in rent and interest, and I just continually sowed those seeds. That money was not money, it was seeds to my freedom. I didn't want anything but that freedom. I wanted that more than anything else. I invested those seeds to my freedom and kept doing that. So I would say, live on less than you make, invest that difference, sacrifice now so you're not forced to sacrifice later, so that you can have the time that you want later. Like, it's worth it. I promise you it's worth it. Get passionate about that.
I love that. And there's been a couple other, I can't remember who it is now, I'm trying to think, but the live less than your means is so critical.
It's critical.
So important because
you have to sacrifice.
Yes.
You either can choose to sacrifice now, or you'll be forced to sacrifice later.
Exactly.
It's your choice.
Yep.
It's your choice.
Yep.
But you don't have to spend all of the money you make. I don't care how much you make. You don't have to.
Exactly.
You can make those sacrifices for yourself. It's for yourself later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've always asked, one of the things I asked my buddy is like, why do you go to work 9 to 5, work so hard to make somebody else wealthy, but you can't do that for yourself on a side hustle, right? Yeah. And I love how you just said it's for yourself. You're doing this for you.
It's for your own freedom.
Yeah.
It's for your own freedom.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
Andy, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all of your wisdom today.
Oh, thank you, Yoshi.
Yes.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, guys. You've been listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM, the show Utah Home Sweet Home, and I hope you all have a spectacular rest of the day. Okay, before we part ways, in case you have a dog or know someone else who does have a dog, I wanted to take a quick second to show you the Snap Leash. The Snap Leash can literally do so many things, and I'm going to share with you one of the many cool things that it can do. As you can see, the Snap Leash is designed with 2 swivel hooks, one on each end. This end has a cushion stitched into it to make it comfortable when walking your dog. Now, all you have to do is take this swivel hook, put it into this very first grommet, and now you've got your handle. Okay, so now let's imagine you're at the park and you want to secure your pet quickly, safely, and easily to a park bench, a tree, or a pole because you just want to sit down and relax. Well, all you need to do is take this swivel hook, remove it from the very first grommet, wrap this leash around any size tree or pole or park bench, and put it into the appropriate grommet. And now you have secured your pet quickly, safely, and easily. And when it's time to head home, another great feature about the Snap Leash is you can simply wrap it around your waist for hands-free walking. Lastly, if you ever accidentally forget your waist bags at home, these grommets make a great place to fasten the waist bags so you never leave home without them. And if you want to see all of the other cool things that the Snap Leash can do, then please just click on the link below and find out why so many others are falling in love with the Snap Leash.